The city was designed to follow the spiral. Every street, every corridor's shadow. But the pattern has begun to fracture. The Spiral Archive attempted to map the geometry. It failed. Every time a map is drawn, the streets shift, the angles bend, the cracks widen. The city remembers the spiral, but it no longer obeys it. The archive continues to record. The records distort. The spiral redraws itself. The archive redraws. The distortion, the geometry persists. The obedience does not. The bends began as minor deviations, a corner shifting by a centimeter, a curb drifting out of alignment. But the deviations accumulate. The Spiral Archive marks each fracture. The city creates new ones. The geometry is no longer stable. It is reacting. The archive measures the angles. The angles refuse measurement. Each correction produces another distortion. The streets bend toward unseen coordinates. The archive records the movement. The city alters the record. The spiral bends itself. The archive bends in response. The deviation is now the design. The tunnels were built straight. They are no longer straight. The spiral's memory extends underground. The archive recorded the original blueprints. The city rejects them. The rails bend toward the center, toward something the archive cannot name. The supports shift by degrees, too small to measure. The tunnel walls bow inward, then outward, following a pattern no engineer has ever drawn. The lights flicker in sequences the archive cannot decode. Vibrations move through the rails as if responding to a distant signal. The straight lines resist. The spiral insists. The tunnels bend again. The archive revises the blueprints. The city revises the tunnels. The center pulls everything toward it, even the structures meant to defy it. The archive stores every map. None match. Streets appear where none existed. Streets vanish where they should remain. The fracture mark grows. The city redraws itself. The archive cannot keep up. Each blueprint contradicts the last. Lines shift between drafts, even when no one is watching. The archive pins the maps to the wall. The maps disagree with each other. Angles drift. Coordinates migrate. The spiral breaks, then reforms in a different configuration. The archive attempts to trace the change. The change erases the trace. The maps fracture. The city continues. The fracture mark began as a single break. Now it branches. The city is splitting along the spiral's memory. The archive attempts containment. Containment failed. The break divides into smaller fractures, each following a path the archive cannot predict. The pavement shifts by millimeters, 10 by meters. The walls bow toward the fault line, as if pulled by an unseen force. The fracture mark spreads through alleys, through foundations, through structures meant to resist movement. The city bends around the break, reshaping itself without permission. The archive deploys sensors. The sensors report contradictions. Every measurement reveals a new deviation. The fracture mark branches again. The city follows the branching. The spiral remembers its original form. The city remembers the fracture. The archive cannot reconcile the two. The city is no longer a single structure. It has become segments. Each segment remembers a different version of the spiral. The archive cannot reconcile the variations. The drift increases. Blocks rotate by degrees that do not match any recorded blueprint. Entire districts shift position overnight, aligning with patterns no one has ever mapped. The streets between segments stretch then compress, as if negotiating boundaries the archive cannot see. The lights across the city flicker in asynchronous rhythms, each segment pulsing with its own memory. The archive overlays the maps. The overlays refuse to align. The spiral fractures into interpretations. The city follows all of them. The drift accelerates. The archive records the movement. The movement discards the record. The city divides again. The structures adapt to the fractures. They bend, they rotate, they shift. The spiral's memory overrides engineering. The archive observes. It cannot intervene. Support beams twist by degrees that were never calculated. Bridges lean toward misaligned coordinates, following trajectories no architect ever intended. Floors tilt, then correct themselves, then tilt again in a different direction. The city's geometry behaves like a living system, adjusting to fractures as if anticipating the next one. The archive documents each adaptation. The adaptations multiply faster than documentation. Structures meant to resist movement now move with precision. The archive cannot explain. The spiral's memory guides the shift. Engineering becomes irrelevant. The city continues to adapt. Intersections are the first to fail. They cannot maintain alignment. The spiral's geometry demands curvature. The archive marks each failure. The failures multiply. Lane markings drift apart, refusing to meet at the angles they once held. Signals flicker out of sequence, responding to coordinates the archive cannot verify. Crosswalks stagger, shifting by degrees too small to notice at first, then too large to ignore. The intersections attempt correction. The correction fraction. Each convergence becomes a point of distortion, bending toward a geometry the city remembers but no longer follows cleanly. The archive documents the collapse. The collapse accelerates. Alignment becomes impossible. The archive attempts to stabilize the spiral. It rewrites maps. It rewrites records. It rewrites itself, but the city continues to fracture. The archive cannot win. Each revision introduces a new contradiction, a misalignment the archive did not intend. The maps shift between drafts, even when sealed in storage. The records overwrite their own coordinates, replacing stable geometry with impossible angles. The archive recalculates. The calculations decay. The spiral bends into forms no system can preserve. The archive persists. This spiral does not. Everything bends toward the center, the spiral's origin point. The archive cannot access it. The fractures converge there. Something is forming. The streets curve with increasing precision, as if responding to a signal beneath the city. Structures tilt toward the same coordinate, aligning despite their instability. Traffic lights flicker in synchronized patterns that match no known system. The fog thickens near the convergence, rising from cracks the archive cannot map. Every deviation points inward. The archive attempts triangulation. The data collapses. The center pulls harder. The spiral remembers its beginning. The city follows the memory. The center remembers the original spiral. It remembers the version before the city existed. The archive cannot retrieve that memory. The fractures intensify. The city prepares to correct itself. The ground shifts in concentric motions, echoing patterns older than any recorded blueprint. Structures near the plaza lean inward, aligning with coordinates the archive cannot calculate. The fog rises from the central fissure, pulsing in intervals that resemble breath. The spiral's earliest geometry resurfaces, rewriting the plaza stone by stone. The archive attempts to decode the formation. The formation rejects interpretation. Every fracture bends toward the same point. The center remembers. This city obeys. The spiral collapses. The city abandons its memory. A new geometry forms. The archive cannot name it. The archive cannot map it. The archive cannot understand it. The city remembers something older. The collapse spreads through every segment, erasing the last traces of the spiral's design. Streets twist into patterns that match no recorded structure. Districts rotate into alignment with coordinates the archive has never seen. The fog thickens around the outer rings, obscuring the remnants of the old geometry. The new formation pulses, expanding and contracting as if testing its own boundaries. The archive attempts classification. Classification fails. The city shifts again, embracing the geometry that predates its existence. The spiral ends. The new form begins.